Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slightly Dramatic episode 18. Oh my god. I feel like every single time I'm just gonna be excited about the number. Like 18. Guys, I'm sorry, but that is crazy that I have dedicated myself for so long. Imagine when it becomes 1 year. I have to do something celebratory. Actually, more than 1 year, I think I should do something exciting on the 25th episode. Okay, I don't know why I'm announcing all of this now. All my creative juices are just flowing. Anywho, welcome to the episode of Slightly Dramatic. Thank you all so much for watching and tuning in today. I do hope you enjoy this episode because it's a good one. It's a good one. I was trying to write about it and there was only so much I could come up with, so I thought I would wing it instead of actually going by text. All right. So just so you know, it's a Friday, post work. The weather is beautiful. The birds are chirping. And I was like, let me get a recording in. And I usually do this on Fridays, anyways. But it's been a while because if you have watched my previous episodes, I did lose momentum. I did lose momentum a lot. And I was trying to get back into it. And now I feel like I'm back into it. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to do more episodes. The conversation that we will be having today is gonna be about some of the latest TV shows that I have really appreciated. Now, before series were even a thing, movies were a huge thing. So we did watch a lot of movies that were based around love stories, and even in these love stories, they showed. I mean, there was no concept of green flag and red flag, and it was just. I don't think there was even a concept of toxic and intoxic toxic and healthy relationships. There was just relationship. Everyone does something to make it work or does not do anything to make it work. So there was no categorizing of certain situations in relationships, if that's how I can put it. And then we had this whole transition from movies to series and now Netflix, and we just have an unlimited number of things to watch. And I really, now when I think about it, before I move forward, what I'm going to speak about are the shows off campus. And Nobody Wants This. And I'm going to tell you why exactly I'm going to speak about these two different shows and how, even though they are love stories, that they're still very different from each other. And I'm going to explain to you why and how is that. All right? All right. All right. Cue music. Tush, 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 tush. I like that intro. Anyways, so as I was saying, a lot of movies back in the day did have love stories, but they were not very greenish. Like if you had to think about Notebook, I don't know if that was like a healthy love. Notebook was very 1920s, so I get the vibe. Everyone was a bit cuckoo, and in the intensity of that cuckoo-ness of love, it all worked out, right? But when it comes to modern dating, the concept of dating, and there has been so many changes in the past years with how we move when it comes to the dating world, and it's caused a lot of confusion, not just for women but even for men, I'm sure. And I feel like right now we are in limbo. A lot of people are in limbo and they don't really know what to do with their dating life because everything seems so um unbelievable in in the in this day and age, and it feels everyone has kind of forgot what a healthy relationship should look like, or everyone knows what an unhealthy relationship should look like, right? But nobody knows how to sort of gauge into a healthy relationship, nor do people really have an idea of. I think it comes there's a difference in age as well. I guess when you're younger you're more open to ideas, and then when you're in the 30s you're just like shaking at the idea of getting into a relationship because there's just so much on the line for you. Regardless of all of this context of relationships, I'm going to speak about off campus and the show Nobody Wants This. And when it comes to television shows, even when series were a thing when I was in my teenage years, I think it was very much accustomed to. I don't know, there were some shows like Pretty Little Liars and One Three Hell. I have not watched these shows. I have not watched a lot of shows. I think the only show that I watched was Breaking Bad because everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's so amazing," and I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll watch it." And that was the only show that was available on television. But apart from that, I've not really watched a lot of series at that point of time. Now it's just so much more available, so you end up watching a lot of series. But back then, everything was just so, it was so different, and relationships was, even if it was relationships, let's say if it was One Tree Hill or the OC or anything on terms of that, or Grey's Anatomy, it was also dramatic, right? Like, it was actually also dramatic. Everything was a pure run through of chemistry and sparks and just feeling this intense emotions and not knowing how to, like, sort of communicate that shit and just being all in your feels, and it was just too much. And I think that's the reason why we all got really drowned into the idea of what love should look like. And it's, for most of us, it's been quite toxic when we've approached these situations, because then you get into college and you're all over the place in so many ways. And you realize that dating is such a different concept now than what we watch on TV or what it was for our parents back then, and so on, right? And then now in this generation, or in this time and age, you have shows like Off Campus, and nobody wants this come out. And I can't tell you how it's such a relief to have these shows come out at this point of time, especially when there's such a terrible time in the market, like in the dating market. Like, it's so bad for, again, any gender out there. It's just been like such a slump, right? It's not even about like, oh, I can't find anyone, but if you find anyone, both of you are like sort of in your own shell and you don't really know how to deal with it or whatever. Maybe that could just be the, maybe that person's not for you or whatever. But it's hard out there. Everyone's kind of given up hope, I want to say, to an extent, you know. And I think why I think these two shows are really important in this day and age is not that it's one thing that it's catering towards. I think another one that I want to mention is Heated Rivalry. I've not watched the show, but I know a lot of people who have said good things about the show. Now, I know these shows may look like it's very, the target audience is women, and I can see why this would be more enticing for women, because women tend to romanticize life more, their relationships more, and so on. We definitely, I'm a sucker for love, dude. Like, I'm definitely a hopeless romantic, and if a guy had to come out, just do some, I'll act all cool, but if they had to do something really cheesy, I'll just be like, okay, fine. Yeah, I find all of that really cute. And the concept of these shows are not just to show how beautiful a relationship can be, but how that relationship can actually be beautiful and healthy at the same time. Now, Off Campus is what I recently watched, and I'm going to start off with Off Campus because it's your college relationships, and I know a lot of people whose college relationships did not end up like that. It's such a nice. I was actually thinking, yo, like, how are these guys so comfortable with each other? Like, I make it make sense. How are they trusting each other so easily? You know, especially given that Gareth is this guy who's just never serious with the girl, and then all of a sudden Hannah is just his immediate girlfriend, and then Ali is like all, she and Dean are just like, let's go. And I'm like, how are they so comfortable? How are they so trusting of this person? And what is all this positivity that's just flowing around? Like, how are these guys? Have they not been traumatized before? And I was like, oh, they have not. They are in their 20s. So you're kind of open to that experience of what you can experience in a relationship. So it kind of makes sense on how they're moving, right? They're like, oh, it's college. Of course, he loves me. I love him. And then you don't know in your, like, post your 20s what that's going to be like. We don't know. It's off campus, basically on campus, but whatever. But it's such a nice show because the way they show how these guys actually think about these women, or how they treat these women, and how honest they're being with these women, or just there's a lot of green flagness that's involved. I don't know how many guys would actually watch this show, but I do hope that there is a general public of guys who do watch this show and do think about the way they approach relationships. I know that there are a lot of guys who also have like terrible experiences with girls, and I don't want to be a woman who's speaking on men's behalf, okay, but I think that is also an experience that we cannot forego, although majority minority might be an up and down on that. But I do hope that there are a lot more guys who are watching this and who kind of take away how these men are actually being well respectful of these women, especially when it comes to the part. I think one of the best example was when Hannah does not show up to the show. He she does not text or she does not call him, and he could have easily lost his shit. And I think every single woman was actually expecting for exactly that to happen. And I was expecting that too. I'm like, oh, he's gonna flip. Like, she like didn't attend his game and his game is off and da 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 da. But he's worried about her. And I think in real life, maybe if the most important thing to you is your game, I don't know if someone would react. Again, maybe this is my own experiences that make me feel like, oh, that's probably not a normal way a guy would react. But then also, why not? Like, I can understand that the sport is everything to you, but then also, if you love this person, why would you react any other way than the way Garrett did, right? So I think it's really nice to it's not just about relationships, it's also the way they're showing how the friends move within that circle, how respectful they are about Gareth and Hannah, and Logan not trying to intercept that, and Ali trying to be a good friend to Hannah. And oh, Ali, chef's kiss. I have my Ali, and that's all I know in life. So this whole concept of get yourself an Ali and stuff, I'm like, I know so many girls who have an Ali, and if you don't, like, seriously get yourself an Ali or be an Ali. That's even better because you'll find that's the best person you can be. But even on how positive these friendships are and how there's a lot of love. And back in the day when you had like Gossip Girl, and there was just so much backstabbing, and there was just so, I have not watched these shows, but I know the concept of how they made friendships look so dirty and so selfish, and so everyone was so conceited on the show, and it was such a bad look. There was so much dishonesty within these teenagers and young adults, and I feel like when it comes to growing up, I feel like to an extent that doesn't even exist. I'm sure there have been experiences where that does, but I really feel it never existed to that extent. And to see it on TV and show it as some sort of it feels like it's a representation or something, and that kind of gives you the wrong notion of how friendships and friendship between women are, or friendship between males should be, and how it is. And it's kind of normalizing a certain behavior, right? But off campus takes a absolute 180 and changes what friendships and relationships and boundaries can look like. And I think that's really nice for a young adult kind of show. Now, my other favorite show is Nobody Wants This. I hated the second season, so I'm not even going to speak about the second season, okay? It's just, I felt like, what is this? It felt like, I don't know, I can't think of anything that it felt like. But Nobody Wants This is it came out in 2025, or it came out I think in 2024 around November, and it was about, it's so crazy actually. That's, wow, I love this. I love this. It's about this girl who has her podcast. So she and her sister have a podcast, and she keeps going on these random dates with guys, and then she comes and discusses it on the podcast. And then she meets this one guy who's actually just salt of the earth, and she, for the first time in her 30s, is falling in love again, and she can't believe it. She's just like, what? And I love this show because I watched it when I was in my, like, when I just became 30, and I'm like, I needed this so much because I was losing hope on dating. Okay, like, I was just losing any sort of confidence that I had in it, any sort of hope that I had in it, and it just felt, no, it's not gonna happen. I feel like at some point I made up my mind saying that, you know what, I think with the person that I am, I'm just gonna be happier alone. I don't think I could be happy with someone else. I don't think I'm gonna meet someone else. I don't think there's someone else made for me. Blah 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 blah. Okay. And apart from, I mean, there was a lot of that thought, and I thought about it, and I was like, there's just nothing to make me believe otherwise. And it's maybe it's a bit silly to say, but this show made me believe otherwise. And it's just a show. it's just a show. But except later on I read that the producer or the writer or whoever, but the show was about this person's life, and she did meet someone in her 30s when she was actually at the brink of thinking that she was actually never going to meet anyone. And I think a lot of women in their 30s do feel that way. So to have a show like that, there is a little bit of drama between the sisters, reasonably, because they are sisters. But to have a show that kind of shows you how love can sort of manifest between two people at an age where you feel like, ah, you're doomed for love, is really nice. And I don't want to use the word nice, is really hopeful. You know, it kind of gives you the hope that this is possible. I'm overthinking it and it's just all in good time. And the idea that I just think I just think it's nice to be able to believe that even in your 30s you could meet someone, and yeah, you could feel like you're there is potential for falling in love like when you were young again. When you think of course there's a reality of how you approach that dating. It's a lot more calmer, but then also two people at that age being mature enough to understand that you both could have insecurities, and you kind of want to make reassure the person constantly, and that's how they show it in the show, right? Because Christian Bell is always trying to self-sabotage, and she has these anxieties and stuff, and then he's always reassuring her. I think in the show they do kind of pour more into that because it is centered around her more than him. I think in the second season they kind of show like a different whole narrative, which I don't know why. But it's I'm like, come on, man, I know it's a show, but there has to be someone, right? So I really, really, really do like nobody wants this. And the fact of the fact of the matter is that everybody kind of does wants this and does want this. And the whole thing on the show is a guy being a real green flag, right? Like he's actually really honest. He reassures her. He shows up for her when he has to. When she's like trying to withdraw, he's like, oh no, she's withdrawing, let me go get some shit done. And then he assures her. So it kind of, I don't know, I think for the 30-year-olds this is an excellent show. So just to put all of that into one tiny little sentence, I like the way cinema is moving with showing green flags in series or showing healthy relationships in series. And I think even Christian Bell, and I think his name is Adam Brody, um it is a healthy relationship, right? Because in your 30s, again, when I was saying off campus, how are these guys getting relationships just so confidently, is because they don't have the trauma. In your 30s, you do have the trauma. You do have your insecurities. You're confused about a lot of things. You have been well adjusted enough in life to think twice before getting someone else into it. So there's a lot more layers to what someone has to break through to understand you and for you to understand them. And so to make that space for them and make that space for yourself is kind of hard. So to watch that in a show and to have it have that sort of relatability is really comforting. I like the focus on this series trying to show us what a healthy relationship can look like from both parties. And I love that for us, that this is a reality that exists and can exist for me, for you, for your neighbor, for your boss, for anybody. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So, if you haven't watched these shows, I think you should. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what's your favorite part about the show. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah. So, yeah. I know I wanted to say something else, but I genuinely cannot remember what I wanted to say. Hmm. I think that's it, guys. Also, another thing I do want to announce. It's not an announcement actually. Um, as much as I'm enjoying doing this alone, I am looking to actually have someone with me to speak with. I have not planned this out at all. I just knew that at some point I'm gonna want to invite people in and like have conversations. Of course, I have not reached a popularity as such that anyone would want to come on here, except my friends maybe. But also, I would love to have company to have conversations. I know for one thing, I would love to be doing the podcast generally with someone else. I think it's nice to have a conversation back and forth, but in the meantime, I guess it's just gonna be me. Secondly, I would love to have people on my podcast, and I'm saying this out loud is just so that because I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there. I know who's gonna watch this, who's not gonna watch this. I just feel like it's a prayer being heard at this point with whatever I say with my mouth. So that's what I want. That's what I want. So let's see. By the end of this year, maybe I'll have a few guests. And if not, there's always next year. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing, amazing weekend. I'm although going to be releasing this on a Wednesday. So I hope you have an amazing week ahead. 2 more days for the weekend, guys. Love you all. Thank you very much. Bye.